All right, it looks like we have some interest, people logging on. Welcome to the Colliers 2020 Southern and Eastern Idaho pod session. I'm your host, Mike Zebe. I'm a broker in Eastern Idaho, and with my co-host, Tami Walker.
Hello.
Hello. And there is a question and answer box that you guys can use to ask questions, and we'll answer them as they come in. I'd like to give a quick shout out and thank our sponsor, Skidmore Incorporated. They are a housing developer in Idaho Falls, and we also represent them in their commercial buildings. I'd like to introduce my team. We've got Scholar Paulson in Idaho Falls, who's not here with us today. And then again, I'm Mike Zebe. I'm a broker in Pocatello. And then we've got Don Zebe, who is a broker and partner. Go ahead and say hi, Don.
Hello there.
And then we have Jared Zebe, who's also a broker in Pocatello.
Hello, good morning.
Yeah, and we service all of Eastern Idaho, basically from the border of Utah to Wyoming, all the way up past St. Anthony. And Tami, if you want to introduce your team.
Yes, I'm Tami Walker. I'm a broker down here in the Twin Falls office. I partner with Steve DeLuca, who's also a partner in Colliers, broker in Twin Falls. Robyn Andersen, who's a broker over in the Rupert Burley area. And then also in our team, we have Eric Etzvold, who is a property manager here at the Twin Falls office. So we have kind of a full service brokerage here.
Cool. Just to reiterate, the question and answer, you can open that dialog box if you hover over the bottom of your screen. You should be able to open it up if you want to ask any questions. Don't be afraid. And we'll just kind of kick this thing off. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. Everyone's really concerned about COVID-19 and how it's impacted commercial real estate in our markets. Here in Eastern Idaho, we've seen some vacancies that are down and some come up in retail, which is expected, but vacancy rates for industrial are extremely low. The demand is very high. Office is kind of holding steady, is a little higher. I'm sorry, and retail is kind of holding steady. It's up a little bit as well. What are you guys seeing over there in Twin, Tami?
So over here through the COVID shutdown, we were still writing leases. It really hasn't affected the economy much over here. We've had a few, obviously the mandatory shutdowns, but we've rebounded from it pretty significantly. And we have a lot of retail right now coming in. Retail is pretty full out at our mall, and I'll let Steve talk about that.
So on the retail score, we've done a really good job here in Twin. Because of our market is a little bit closed, our location, but our mall, which is a 70s vintage mall, and we all know the issues that across the country what have suffered. But our mall has been unbelievably resilient. They lost over 130,000 square feet of tenants in the past 2 years, all of which has been completely backfilled by the likes of Kohl's, Hobby Lobby, Home Goods, and others. So it's and we've seen a resurgence on the interior of the mall as well with local retailers. So we've done well there. There is some pockets and vacancies. There's some of the newer locations that are a little bit struggling just because they're new projects. They paid handsomely for the land, and so they're having to achieve rental rates heretofore that we haven't seen, and it's been quite a bit of reluctance to that. And then also, as we talked just briefly about, we have a new market. Well, it's not really a new market. It's a market that was always available to retailers, but it's now become very, very popular, and that's our rebranded and rejuvenated downtown corridor. And we're seeing more restaurants, local retailers, barber shops, you name it, coming down here. And the trend is now that we have that opportunity available, it's given our retailers another shot. And we're starting to see some of them expand even down into the Burley area. They're now looking down in Robyn's neighborhood. And Robyn, you want to share with us on that one?
Sure. So Burley has actually had major expansion as well, and COVID hasn't played that much havoc in this area either. And based on the retail here, I think our biggest problem is the supply. And so we're trying to build things as quickly as we can to satisfy that demand. And most importantly is we're seeing national tenants as well have interest in the area, but we're also seeing a huge influx of expansion from local companies as well. The other thing too I want to mention is our industrial is another big part of this area. We've had major employers like McCain that just finished up their $200 million expansion. We've had Fabricel finish their $50 million investment into the area as well. So most of these multinational industrial companies have moved and expanded to this. And then we're also seeing a huge flare of agricultural expansion as well.
Mike?
Yeah, as far as retail, Jared, what do you know?
Yeah, so here in eastern Idaho, let's start with Idaho Falls first. Up there, there's continuing to go strong. They're writing leases, filling buildings, much like anything else. Everything is not everything is new, but there's a lot of new stuff coming on and it's being leased at higher rates, which is good. And that's all due to the cost of construction right now and building people's pro forma, and they need to get those higher rates. Down here in Pocatello, things are a little bit slower. We have some available restaurant space, but it's maybe not the right type for people in this COVID climate and maybe for the future, where tenants are looking for a drive-in or drive-through space. Other than that, retail space is relatively low, just so there's just not an abundance of it.
Yeah, and as far as trends down here in eastern Idaho, industrial is super hot. It's been like that, I think, pretty much all over the state. But inventory is low, vacancy rates are super low. I think there's just great potential that has that's pretty much been untapped. There's a need for flex space that you just don't see here as you do in places like Boise and Salt Lake. Pandemic really hasn't phased industrial at all. They're holding strong with a vacancy rate of low 1.7%. Office has been doing well, with vacancy rate right around 3.3%. But Jared and I were talking this morning about the state of office in eastern Idaho. He's a little more well-spoken on that. If you want to touch on some of the office stuff as well, Jared.
Yeah, thank you. So governmental leasing, I don't know what you guys are seeing over in Twin Falls, so I'll let you guys speak to that over there, but people aren't occupying their space right now. I heard from some good sources at the INL that they are unsure when they're going to return back to work, and they were thinking that it might be mid-July of next year, and that there's a possibility of them not renewing some of their annual appropriated leases because it doesn't make sense. They're all working from home. Same thing with some state of Idaho stuff in buildings that we lease, which can be kind of scary there. But office in general, medical office is staying on the market. It's a little bit longer, but it is slowly moving. We should be having an increase with service providers in our area just due to the aging population that we have here. So, medical investments are a strong thing, I think, and that should be the outlook for what we can see as far as in the future.
Yeah, as far, just to touch on the medical investments, it's based off of the population, and we're seeing a major population increase, which is just only going to support more medical providers and those ancillary positions, to facilitate healthcare in the area. We feel that medical office down in Eastern Idaho is a very safe bet for investment. Tami, what are you guys seeing for medical or just office in general in Twin?
There is a big corridor that's over by this new St. Luke's over there that we're seeing quite an expansion on the medical office buildings over there, which is good. And they St. Luke's did take off their hiring freeze, so they're bringing in a lot of physicians. Now we're seeing they were on a freeze for during the COVID, during the shutdown. So we're seeing a lot more of the influx of the doctors coming in, and they're adding positions into the system. So that's really good. And on the outskirts, we have North Canyon Medical, and they are also expanding. So they've added into some of the smaller markets, our surrounding markets. But I think what's slowing them down, and I know Don can talk to this, is the cost of building. And land costs have been a big problem, which has slowed down some of that process of the construction.
Okay. Let's see here. One of the other things that's affecting, both our markets is cost increases. Taxes are consistently going up, which are basically being passed on to the end user through leases. Cost of funding are going up, and those are things that people are able to kind of navigate around, and they're a little easier to deal with. But with the cost of construction and land prices on the rise, Don, what do you think about that as far as construction, cost of construction and land prices, and how we're going to navigate these, and we see costs of construction going up, and then especially in our market, we see asking prices that are on the rise, not necessarily sales prices, but I think that eventually those asking prices are going to become a reality as far as purchase price.
Well, great question, Mike. Yeah, we've seen some real significant things happen in whether it's Idaho Falls, Blackfoot, or Pocatello. Labor costs. We don't particularly have the amount of construction workers and the labor force. They're all busy. We have it, but they're all busy, and just like any city. And consequently, the labor prices are increasing along with the cost of materials. So when you couple the cost of materials, the labor costs, cost of land, permitting prices have been pretty consistent, but because of the population growth that we're all experiencing, there's additional infrastructure required for sewer systems and water systems, and so the cities are beginning to charge a little bit more to continue to upgrade their systems, and so all of these things coupled together are getting the prices to retail and industrial prices to where cities such as Salt Lake City are charging, whether it's Salt Lake City or Bountiful. We're getting more in line with them as well when it comes to costs. And so the economies that we used to have, where it was a lot less expensive to do business in Eastern Idaho and in Twin, we don't experience that as much as we used to because of those increased costs. And one of the other things that troubles our market is all the contractors, the big contractors, are so busy that they're really not paying attention to the Twin Falls, the Idaho Falls, the Pocatello and Blackfoot area of our region, where they can speculate, and I don't really want to call it speculation, on ground, purchasing the ground now, and then coming in with a team and building out things. I mean, right now you can go up down I-15 corridor in Salt Lake, and there is people building beautiful industrial buildings, and they're getting leased before they even come out of the ground. We don't see that happening in the Eastern Idaho and the Twin Falls area, which we would love to see because of the businesses that are coming here. We know we can make that happen. We know we can lease that. So it's a chicken and egg thing, and we've just got to encourage those developers and builders to come invest in our communities, because the influx of those coming from the West Coast into our region is going to continue for the next 4 years, at least.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you for that. I do, a little factoid, it's like 1/3 of all closings for residential are from out-of-state buyers. And with the, how for Idaho in general, with housing developments on the rise, we've seen a lot of requests for, third-party logistics. The technology is coming to, southern and eastern Idaho, and with that population change, it's just going to require more and more of ability to basically place these businesses. Most of the people that are coming here are entrepreneurs or business, they start businesses themselves. So, we've seen, as far as residential, multifamily specifically is on the rise. There's a pretty good amount of single family, 68% increase in commercial building projects. There's the Northgate and Pocatello, specifically Jacksonville Junction, Idaho Falls, and they're getting ready to do updates on the interchanges on on I-15, and it's not because there's a surplus of money. It's the fact that they're preparing for a population boom. Tami, I imagine you guys are seeing pretty similar stuff up there in, Twin and Burley.
We are. The state of Idaho is also expanding some of our entrances, like as far as the exits and on the interstates. Jerome's getting one of the big clover leaves, which is going to be a pretty significant investment. And I know they're doing a lot of work around that Burley area too, as you're coming in from Utah.
Yeah, and Burley's actually, they're redoing Highway 30 between Burley and Twin Falls as well. They've changed that into sections of 4 lanes. There's been an improvement right off of exit 208 and 211 as well. They've done some improvements of infrastructure to accommodate that. And since we are kind of talking about the influx of people, just the Kasia region has actually had a population growth of about 6.9%. With this influx.
And to follow the national trends, I know that on the interstate, in the breakout earlier, the big session, we were seeing those national trends with the majority of people coming in from Portland and Seattle, and that's the same thing we're seeing here. Are you guys as well?
I think we see a lot of people from California and, and Oregon and also Washington as well.
Yes.
But what as it relates to cost of construction, are you guys seeing a big increase in that, or asking rates kind of going through the roof, or are they holding steady?
No, they change every week. The cost of lumber goes up every week. So it's just, it's kind of, you get a bid on a home and you start to build it and then it goes up considerable. So our cost per square foot, I bet, has went up in the last 6 months, probably almost $30 a square foot, depending on, your finishes and that on, on single family. So it's significant.
Right. I just wanted to, I know we had a handful of people join. We have a question and answer section at the bottom of your screen. You should be able to click on that. If you guys have any specific questions, feel free to shoot those out. We haven't seen any yet. Kind of hoping generate some conversation here. So if you have something, let us know. We'd love to answer it.
One of the things that we're seeing quite significantly is an increase in taxes in property assessments.
Right. We see that as well down here. Having to go back and kind of fight those taxes has been a thing. And sometimes I think Jared and Don would agree, if you just kind of dig into it, some of them kind of just seem to be really disproportionate. It's taxes for one guy on the west side of the road are X, and then taxes for a similar building on the east side of the road are Y, and there's no really rhyme or reason that you can come up with.
However, one of the things that we're going to be looking at it as the economy begins to change and businesses start coming into communities, we're going to see a shift in those taxes where the residents are going to see a decrease because we're creating more jobs and there's going to be more capital there. And as we build more buildings, I mean, as an example, Mike, you know, we hopefully are going to have a really, you know, great announcement for. We hope it's in January for Idaho Falls. We've got another announcement that we're working on right now in Pocatello that's going to be bringing in significant number of jobs in the 3PL, the third-party logistics sector, with significant size buildings. And so when you look at that, those things are going to change. And so there's definitely going to be a shift because of more buildings, and we're going to see the taxes come down. I'm confident of that. So it may seem like doom and gloom now, but it's not. Things are changing and moving in the right direction.
That's great.
I know that's one of the things that we see too in our warehouse sector is that with Chobani and Cliff Bar, I think, you know, those tax breaks when those companies first come in, we're seeing those now start to evolve where they're actually starting to pay taxes, which is really going to help the tax revenue as well for the community.
And then I'll just go ahead and add on to that too, Dawn, to help balance out. Cassia County has actually, their average income has actually grown 57%, and our average wage has gone up 34%. So to balance that out, when you bring in these national companies, McCain's, Dow Chemical, DuPont, you know, Boise Paper, that's increased so many jobs and increased the wage for those jobs, it balances those tax issues.
Right. So we got some questions starting to come in. Let's see. And anybody from the team, if you can answer this, I'll read it out. How much can the legacy Idaho population handle for a price increase before they can't afford to lease or buy from, you know, the migrators, new people coming in? Does anybody? What do you think, Dad?
I think with the migrators that are coming in, especially in the residential area, they've got quite a bit of cash, and so I think that's going to be a residential issue. But I think they're going to really enjoy the fact that our rates for leasing space are significantly lower when you're comparing to Washington, Oregon, and California. And so they're going to look at being able to pay their people more to offset the fact that they're paying less in rents. So but we have to have the property available for them, and we do have some shortages. We need more property out there, and that's why I talked about the speculators earlier, of those that would take a more of an interest, the larger developers, to come into a community and do some things like that. So I think the prices are definitely going up, but it's not. And as jobs are increased, I think it's going to be a wash. I think it's going to be competitive and workable for all. Those that are here now, those customers or those tenants that are here now are going to see rates going up, and they may go, well, I can't afford that. But as they watch their sales go up, they can. So it's going to be a really good balancing act that we have to work through.
Anybody else have anything to add? All right, we've got another question here. You know, what sort of tenants have been reaching out and looking for space? You know, what square foot range and type is the most requested in amount? And we received inquiries from tenants outside of the state looking for a certain product. You know, there's an ebb and flow with anything. And like I said earlier, industrial is really a hot ticket item right now. We've got several people looking for industrial space. They want it to be very specific for their use. We've seen anywhere between 10 and 100,000 square feet when it comes to industrial. And I would say there's a decent amount I'm hesitant to put a percentage on it as of tenants that are outside looking for space here in Idaho, as far, or even in our market. Tami and Steve, what do you guys, and Robyn, what do you guys see in Southern Idaho?
I'll go ahead and go. Good question there, Mike. In specifically the Katja, Rupert area, kind of the Twin Falls, Kimberly area, we've actually, the common average size is probably asked between 25,000 to 50,000 square feet. But we just recently sold this first year, 150,000 square foot facility. We also just finished up an 87,000 square feet, and we're currently working on a 48,000 square foot, and the rest are pretty much build to suits.
I think that basically the question, it has to do with the product that you're looking for. We're seeing a lot more smaller square footage requests when it comes to office. The retail is also a little smaller than it has been. They're more boutique type retail. As far, I'm seeing a lot more of that, a lot more of the smaller office space. And then also in industrial, it's kind of on those flex spaces are running about 2,000 square feet. And they're coming from a lot of people within the community, but also people from outside the community. That's where our bigger amounts of square footage on industrial are coming from, as Robyn's talking about. Steve, did you have anything to add on that?
So no, I think we answered it quite well. The one of the things on the national trends is we see companies that want to come here. The difficulty we have is trying to keep them interested here because of our lack of product. They'll come through here and they'll need 50, 60,000 square feet, and they need it 3 weeks ago, and we're not able to react that fast. We just don't have that product mix available. In fact, it'd be hard to be pressed that if we when we deal with the economic team here in the city of Twin Falls, they constantly ask us for updates on what type of product is available, and we're short on 10,000 square foot buildings, and so it really becomes a little bit of an issue to capture some of these people. They do have a short window, and so if we're not able to build for them, they've moved on either down into Eastern Idaho, or they go up to Boise, or they go to Salt Lake. So that's a struggle we have. The city is in great shape for expansion on their utility end, so that's not the problem. It's just having product readily available that we can trade between tenants that are existing and new tenants coming in. So it's a bit of a plug up there.
Yeah, I think that both Idaho Falls and Pocatello are seeing everything you're talking about. Tenants from all over the board, square footage. Everybody wants to pay the lowest they can, but it's because we don't have the product available. It's driven by the cost of the product, and so you're exactly right, Steve.
All right.
So there was another question that came in from Justin here about residential, new residents coming and paying cash for homes, driving the prices up. How are Idaho wages changing, allowing current employees to afford the new housing prices? Well, I'm having this conversation the other day with a friend of mine who was saying, man, I can't afford that home. It's going to be over 400,000. I said, yeah, but you're going to sell your home for over 300. So sure you can, because you're going to make that difference up in the sale of your home. And so I think that with the increased sales prices across the board, at least in East Idaho, that's how they can continue to keep up with the new prices of housing. New prices are hard though, whether it comes from the ground up, but generally speaking, when they want to get into a newer home, you have to roll in that equity that you may gain from previous sales.
You know, one of the things that we saw today in our local newspapers, one of our big employers here, Chobani, just moved the entry level price or the entry level wage level for their new employees at $15 an hour. So that was just announced this morning, and I think that one move will cause a ripple effect to the other businesses here. Certainly Cliff Bar is paying a premium wage to their folks. And so some of the other maybe companies that are here are going to have to step up in order to be competitive. So that was great news to see for our valley.
I've seen the questions have kind of trickled off. If you have anything specifically you want to talk about, go ahead and ask away. Pending we see any questions that come in, I'd like to thank all of you for your questions and participation in our pod session. Feel free to contact any of us. We're always here to serve you in our southern and eastern markets. I'd like to thank Skidmore Inc. for their sponsorship, and we hope to hear from all of you very soon. Have a great day.
Thank you for attending.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, have a good one, team.